Hello, me again. So, yeah, I was just wondering about like who raped me and everything the other day. Um, do it in my sleep like they did in Colorado Springs. Was it the child protectors or was it the child traffickers? They all look so alike because of the mimic. Um, but anyway, I wanted to talk about that movie idea too. So well, let me put it in a movie idea. But it would be pretty amazing if it was real life. So if you want to catch some child traffickers and shit, and I'm sure they'll have their, they'll get, just like the package decoy people, they'll be like some rich douchebag banker, right? Hiring some grunt worker to go snatch that package up. And then if anything happens, it happens to you, you know. But you can also use some of the evil's tactics. What does the evil do? With the suicides all the time. They're like, look, we're going to cut you up piece by piece and make it really painful if you don't write your own suicide and hang yourself. We're going to watch it and everything, blah blah blah. And they do that. So okay, so I had this movie idea with it's similar to Screamers, where you have the child robots and everything, and then if the robot is getting sexually violated, it could go screamer mode, and start and then the person's going to have to cover their ears because it's such an irritating noise, right? And then the robot could latch on to the person, and start, bringing pain in, maybe horrific ways. Like, oh, like the person shoved their dick in their mouth and then the thing bites it off, and suddenly that triggers, screamer mode, right? Like people, could get really creative with this stuff. And yeah, the light side can't really do the evil stuff. But if you had a robot do it for you, it would definitely create a major deterrence. And you could get information out of them. They're like, we're going to, the robots is like, we're going to fucking, start cutting you up piece by piece if you don't give me who your boss is. You think the evil side will be able to resist that shit? Be like, okay, it was Bill and Hillary, no relation to anyone, but yeah, you could get really creative with that stuff. If you really cared about the children, want to create a deterrence, a major fucking deterrence, oh, you could get really fucking creative and use some of their tactics. You could mimic like they do, with the child robot. And it doesn't always need to be malicious. I guess there's your mentally handicapped people that you like to fucking, bust, in weird ways, that have been sexually abused. They could have their little, it doesn't even need to be sexual. There's all sorts of people, they're like, man, I miss raising a kid. And they could just have a robot to like raise, you know at least for a little while, and then maybe they're like, after 5, 6, 7 years, they're like, I don't feel like having the robot anymore, but it was nice to, mentally masturbate me for a while, I guess. And people do, all sorts of weird shit. They have weird, car collections. They have those reborns and everything where they have like a lifelike doll and everything, but that like sometimes that shit gets possessed. It's you could get really, really, really creative. I think it's a great idea. If you really cared about children, you should have some child decoys, and you can make them kind of screamer violent. And you could use some of their "we're going to fucking cut you up," and unless you comply, with this, vital information that we need, sort of shit. Right? Right? I think that sounds nice. And it would create such a huge deterrent. Oh my God. Just like imagine that for a second and think about the deterrence. Oh, yeah.